So what about coal then? You said you wanted to talk about coal.
Yeah, coal. Okay, so coal is a big Bitcoin FUD. And every time a coal plant gets brought back to life with Bitcoin mining, I get an email like, did you see this? What do you have to say about that, from friends, who are skeptical about Bitcoin?
It's your fault, Margot.
It's my fault. I'm working against the climate movement. I've lost my way. and then I have to go and I have to spend hours digging through these stories, trying to figure out what's really going on. And the thing with coal, again, is bad fiat incentives, bad government incentives. And not only that, it's a just transition issue in some parts. Like, where was this recent coal plant in Montana? It was Beowulf teamed up with Marathon.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember they brought it back online.
Yeah. And so that was a big deal. And some people in the community were upset about it. Okay, but here's the problem. That power plant was funded through state bonds, and it was to do repairs on it. And the only way for them to get, or for the city or whatever, I guess the city was given the bond. The only way for them to get that money back is through tax revenue. But that company or utility that was running that coal plant had not paid taxes since like 2016 or something. So they went all these years with no tax revenue from them. And then there were people employed at the coal plant, let's say like 100 people. And now once that power plant shuts down, where do they go find work? So that's a just transition. Like, if we are going to do this transition right, we have to take care of the coal workers. We have to take care of these small towns, because what's going to happen to them if they have no revenue? They need something to replace it. And nobody is dealing with that. The federal government isn't dealing with that. They're being completely ignored. And so what option do they have if in this society and in this economy, if you don't have money, your only alternative is to starve and become homeless? What option do you have but to bring your coal plant back? And I think that's really what happened there, was that there was a deal made, because coal is not, right now, especially with more regulations on coal, it's not economically viable. Like, it's more expensive than renewables. And then you have to deal with like paying for like the coal, like how to deal with the coal waste and stuff. These companies end up going bankrupt. So one way to bring it back is obviously with mining. And so that's what happened. But it's a complicated story. It's not that Bitcoin mining is bringing back coal plants, because there's only really a handful that where this has happened in the United States. And each one has its own unique story. It's that there are really bad incentives that are built into the government, and that's making it possible for these things to happen. Or it's because of government neglect of people. Going all the way back to the beginning of the story with Occupy and the the Great Recession and all of that, people being left out, and the abandonment of the working class, in particular the white working class in rural areas. Like, this is what is happening. And this is a prime example of how that is happening, and how these people are really just looking for a lifeline. So in a way, you can say that Bitcoin is providing a lifeline for these people. Is it the right lifeline? Like, is it right to bring back this coal plant because of the carbon emissions? Of course, obviously, we don't want to put more carbon out into the atmosphere, any more CO2 into the atmosphere, because the more CO2 we put in, the more problems we have going down the line. And the more the average warming of the planet increases. So we don't want that. But at the same time, you have a human issue here where people are in trouble and we're not helping them. So how can we help them? Like, maybe a UBI is necessary for coal workers for now. Like, a lot of people on the left are not really fans of UBI for various reasons. And they prefer
and the right.
And they prefer a federal jobs guarantee. But these people may have to leave their home to go take that job, whatever job that the government might guarantee them. Of course, that's better than nothing. But why not just give them some money so that at least they can stay home and keep their families together? Because once you start splitting up families, right, because now you got to go work somewhere else, like in the big city or something, like I don't think that's really good for the cohesion of that family unit. But I mean, that's of course speculation. My part, obviously, I'm not sociologist. I'm not a psychologist or anything like that. I'm just a scientist. But it seems to me that why not just let these coworkers stay home, pay them to stay home and have that money that they need until something else comes into town. Maybe there's like some state initiative that brings a new manufacturing facility into town, which is something that happened at the Navajo coal plant. And they brought in a manufacturer of homes, like prefabricated homes, to take over that plant.
Okay.
So these things can happen, but really the state needs to be involved, and they're being ignored. And so in that case, yeah, Bitcoin, it looks bad for Bitcoin, but actually it's more complicated. And all of these coal stories are very similar. Like with Stronghold, that's a coal waste remediation plant. And the Energy Justice Network had opposed any of this type of coal waste plants in Pennsylvania. But their alternative was something called seagrass, I think. And they were like, this is more natural. You can just let the grass take over, and it'll like fortify the soil and things like that. It'll be better, and it'll look nicer. But there's no real scientific studies on this. I went and dig through the literature trying to find research on this type of grass as coal remediation, and I found next to nothing. There was like one article that said that only the invasive species on this one area where there was coal waste, it was only invasive species that were taking hold there, not like any of like the native plants. So that's a new problem, right? So then the other issue is that these piles of coal waste can spontaneously catch on fire, and they're leaching into the water, they're leaching into the soil, and they're contaminating groundwater, which is a major problem. It's very easy to contaminate groundwater. It's not that easy to get that contamination out of the groundwater. There's research that's done on just how to do that, and I know professors in my department who work on that, and it's not easy. And that groundwater is not renewable, quote unquote, in the sense of a human lifespan. Like it takes hundreds to thousands of years to recharge or refill those groundwater aquifers, right? So you don't want that pollution to get in there, and that's like heavy metals and things like that. So the only viable alternative are these waste coal plants, and that's what Stronghold has been doing. They're running a waste coal plant, and they're not meant to be profitable, but they're meant to operate on the margins because they're really remediation. And so these guys who are running Stronghold, I heard them speak with Nick Carter, interviewed them, and they give a really compelling case, and they seem very sincere in what they're doing. I'm really interested in seeing some of their studies to see, like, because they're claiming like a 90% reduction in certain emissions, like sulfur dioxides, which is a very heavy, it's a very strong greenhouse gas that is stronger, like over a certain time scale compared to carbon dioxide, right? So you don't want a lot of that emitted. But if they're claiming 90% reduction, that's massive. That's a really big deal. So this right now is our only option to deal with this, because you're polluting the environment and you're causing people to develop health conditions, cancer, and then they catch on fire spontaneously. So now you're emitting CO2, just like burning it with no regulation on that. At least coal plants had some, right? So this is what I mean. Like everything we do has or is a compromise. Like we're damaged. We have damage no matter what we do. And with these coal plants, and the coal waste has been around for over like 100 years or something. Like this is damage that's done. Like, we already did this damage. We have to figure out how to deal with it in the least harmful way possible. And this right now is the only way we have to deal with this. And I think this is really hard for some environmentalists to understand, because they really want to see a natural way to solve this problem.